Well, ladies and gentlemen, it happened. We start this one off on a bit of a bittersweet note. I was going to say I was going to do, the tier list and that sort of thing, and here we are. Just to bring this to your attention, the video that put me on the map has broken 2 million views on YouTube. Obviously, the first thing to say about this is massive thank you to each and every one of you, every single one of you who has viewed this video over the past year and about 3/4, I think it's been out now. It was absolutely bizarre for me personally, because I genuinely did not believe that I would ever get a video with 2 million fucking views, especially not for a game that was functionally dead at the time as well. It kind of shows that people really do actually like this game, and there's still actually a following out there for it. It's very endearing in a way. The bittersweet side of things obviously is that following the revival that we attempted to do, around that time, actually about a year and a half ago now, I think it is, the server's been shut down. So as monumentous as it is, it doesn't really mean anything anymore, because my mission was always to get the game out there, get it to this. I mean, this was the dream that's actually come true here. The dream was to get a video of Evolve in some way or another to the front page of YouTube, and that's what's happened here. The only issue now, obviously, as I've just begun to mention, is that it's not going to mean anything because the servers are gone, so they've completely abandoned it. It's not getting a revival, it's not getting a resurgence, it's not getting the life it deserves as far as I'm concerned. But, not to put the downers on it all. As I said at the beginning, I do appreciate every single one of you who's viewed it over the years. My depressed, deadpan, silly ass never thought I'd actually get to, the front page of YouTube with a video. Regrettably, it is a time, before I did actually start doing voice stuff, so, people don't really know who the fuck I am, all them 2 million people, but, it is what it is. Needless to say, anyway, it's absolutely an absolute unit of a fucking achievement. So, in celebration of that, we'll call it, I'm going to do a tier list, because it's been requested for quite a while. I've just never really got around to it because I've only very recently started sleeping right, so I actually do have the energy now. So we're going to go down the line with the monsters. I'm going to give you my honest opinions and thoughts and just ratings. This is not to be taken as gospel. Please do not take this as this is the definitive fucking Evolve tier list. Although these days it may as well be, considering there's only me and about 5 others on the planet that can play the game now. So, it is what it is. But yeah, these are just my opinions, basically. Disclaimer out of the way. We're going to begin. So we're going to do this regardless of the order at the bottom. We're just going to do it as they're listed in the game, from 1 to 8 in this particular instance. So we're going to begin with Goliath, and we're going to start off very strong here, ladies and gentlemen, because this is an automatic S tier. Goliath is, for me at least, as a Goliath main, and it's not actually biased in this instance, Goliath is the actual best monster in the game. For a few reasons. The first being that he is quite tanky. He is the brawler monster. He is the go-to man for the new player, because he is very durable and he puts out a lot of damage, and it's very balanced in that regard between how much he can soak up and how much he can dish out, He's got a lot of fucking utility. His ability cooldowns are also very forgiving compared to a lot of the other monsters. There is the synergy with the ability cooldowns buff as well from the Mammoth Bird. If you get that at stage 3, if my memory serves me correctly, by picture, I'm squinting my fucking eyes shut when I'm saying this, because I believe it's true, you will never actually have all 4 abilities on cooldown. You can consistently always have at least 1 ability ready to be used. Because his base cooldowns without the buff is actually very forgiving. So obviously when you amplify this with the Mammoth Bird buff, the ability cooldowns buff, it'll decrease that even further. So you can really become a powerhouse, which is something I do mention in my videos when I'm playing as him. He's also an S tier because this monster's design is fucking phenomenal. I have actually, to this day, since 2015, I have never come across a cooler monster design than this. It's a humanoid dragon, basically, just without the wings. He's described on Evolve's wiki as a saurian humanoid, which is obviously dinosaurs, saurian. But he's a mixture of, obviously, the saw, the dinosaur, dragon, and obviously the male, or the man, the Homo sapien, whatever you want to call it, you know, physique, body shape. But it also has those alien sort of features to it, obviously with his neck and his feet that are quite alien in likes, and obviously spikes on his back, that's unique to him. But yeah, overall he is a 10 out of 10 monster. Very new player friendly, very strong and decently durable. He's not the tankiest monster in the game, and the only, if I was to list a downside about him, he does require a small degree of tactic to use in fights, because you do need to still remember what is a good fight and what isn't a good fight to take with this monster, because he isn't Behemoth. So if you're against like a high damage team, a high damage team comp, like what I just said, he will actually melt quite quickly. I have noticed this myself when I've been playing as him. If you go against, say, a team, say, with Cabot, Cabot's always the bread and butter to this, that causes this. We've got Cabot that's going to be amplifying damage by twice the amount that everybody else puts out. If you get a team, say, the highest damage output team in the game, which I believe is Cabot, Parnell, Bucket and Slim, I believe, because they're all attack-based hunters. Obviously, Parnell is anyway, because it's assault. There's a very small difference between Torvald and Cabot, Torvald and Parnell, in terms of, you know, surface damage they can put out in a degree amount of time, you know, that kind of thing. Because obviously Torvald's a bit more skill shotty when it comes to landing his damage, because he has to wait for his mortars to land. Parnell can literally just shoot rockets at you, so it's a bit more consistent with Parnell. But yeah, Cabot, Parnell, Slim, Bucket, he will melt very quickly against that team at stage 2. So in that particular instance, you need to be going probably for the Trapper in that instance. Hang on a minute. No, I've just made a mistake. Fucking hell. I've been playing this game for 8 years, believe it or not. You can't have Bucket because Bucket is a support and so is Cabot. Ignore me. It's Cabot, Parnell, Slim, Jack. But I don't think I think Abe surpasses Jack's damage. So the only reason that Jack would be more problematic is because Jack directly counters Goliath, because Goliath has a lot of traversal based abilities and Jack prevents traversals with his repulsor, so he can lock you down in a place. This is turned into hunters, this, but Torvald and Jack are a good combination because Jack can hold him down while Torvald mortars him. But even so, like I say, he can melt in certain situations, but it doesn't really, it's not that much of a problem to push him out of S, you know. He is very strong and probably one of the best monsters in the game. Begs the question, ladies and gentlemen, as he was the first monster to ever be discovered, why the fuck did we even evolve, you know? To the other monsters, because we had it perfect at the first stage, the first evolution. So there you go. We're going to move on to Meteor Goliath. In this particular instance, Meteor Goliath is going to be an A straight away. He still has Goliath's traits, being one of the fastest monsters in the game. However, his damage is a little bit lower, and the reason it's lower is because he's more suited to spreading damage amongst the team. He focuses on, well, he excels, I should say, in teams where they have single target healers, so Kyra, Val. I mean, every monster excels against Lazarus. I don't think there's anybody else. It's not Emmett, because Emmett can heal everybody. It's not Slim, because Slim can heal everybody. yeah, I think it's just Kyra, Val, and Lazarus really suffer against Meteor Goliath because he'll be spreading his flame across everybody, which I'll call DOT across the whole team. So he whittles his opponents down, basically, this version of Goliath. It's not S because, as I say, he can't put out as much damage in as little time as what his regular brother can. So he's slightly weaker in terms of that. But he does have the same sort of HP issues where he will melt in a fight if you know, it's a strong team comp. So it pushes him down to A because obviously that is 2 negatives. He doesn't have as much damage, but he does still have the sort of caveat that regular Goliath has on top of that. So design-wise as well, I'm knock points off this, but the only way I'm knock points off this is because I've never liked his antlers. There's something about the antlers on the front of him, I just don't like it. I like it on his tail, because it has the same on his tail at the end. But in terms of them on his head, I don't know, man. It's because his normal head's like really well designed anyway, like the Triceratops style armour sort of shape kind of thing. You lose that with Meteor Goliath because it has the antlers instead. But the blue fire is obviously very nice. He's based on... well, he came about in the Cataclysm era, which we got a very brief glimpse of in Stage 2 version of the game. He was a Goliath that was alive during that time, and obviously having all these meteorites smashing into Shear's surface all the time because of the actual disruption that the monsters were causing in the universe with their presence. He sort of took that and made it a part of himself, you know. It's actually said in his lore, or in his little flavour text, that he actually crashed into to Shear himself. So that would paint him as like a living meteor, but he's still Goliath, so it doesn't really make much sense in that regard, if we're thinking sensibly here. But yeah, because he'd still have to come from outside of Shear in that regard. But these are sort of evolutionary responses, you know, to things that are happening on the planet, which is something I'll explain on the other monsters as well. Well, yeah, I'd say he's an A tier. I'm going to move to the squid in this one. This is Kraken. Kraken, I should mention this actually, I'm actually rating this based on legacy as well. There was slight balance differences between the two games. So it's, you know, I'm rating this based on legacy for these purposes, mate, because Stage 2 is gone now. So it is just what we have now. If I'm rating Kraken, we're filling it out nicely because I'm going to put him in B tier. He was back in the day when it was multiplayer at the very, very beginning. He was probably around S tier because there was quite a large amount of Krakens being seen. The reason for this was because right at the beginning there was only really, I mean, we had fucking, my memory's a blur because it's like 8 years ago now. But we had, because this monster completely makes Markov irrelevant. So for the baseline hunter and what a lot of people would have been playing as, Kraken literally stops a lot of damage from the team coming in. Because he's an airborne monster and Markov's damage, a big source of Markov's damage comes from his mines, which are always placed on the ground. The way you could counteract this as a Markov though against a Kraken is if you try and force a fight in an open area that has a lot of ledges and then place your mines right on the edge of the ledges, you can sometimes tag him as he's flying past them. That was quite a viable way to play him if you ever got matched up against a Kraken with, you know, after you'd locked in Markov. You'd basically just position your mines in, try and get him in the most elevated place possible, and then try and lure him, you know, to make him fly into the mines kind of thing, on the edge of ledges. But yeah, in terms of that, he's B tier because his HP is very bad. You don't really notice it unless you go against a team that can actually pull you out the sky. This is like Abe, Griff can pull you out the sky, Crow can pull you out the sky with stasis. Kraken does suffer very heavily into stasis because it'll pull him out the sky. So once he's grounded, he's actually very weak. He still has melee capabilities, but obviously his Elder Kraken counterpart, his other brother, is more suited to that because he's a bit more tanky. but Kraken doesn't really want to spend too much time on the ground anyway, because it is very dangerous. This monster will fucking melt against high damage teams on the ground. Pulling him out the sky in certain instances against teams, especially at stage 1 or 2, it can result in death, because he won't be able to actually catch back up. And obviously this is talking about multiplayer days, not against bots. Multiplayer days, you'd have hunters that were persistently and consistently tailing you everywhere, you know, and harassing and poking and all that kind of thing. You had to be very quick as the monster back in the days alive. You had to be feeding on the run at all points of the game. It wasn't as chilled against the bot videos that you see what I put out, where I know it's usually always a win because I know what's going on. Like, I'm in the bot sense at this point because I've been playing it for nearly 8 years, and then switched to bots about like 3 years ago when it went down, that kind of era. I think it was 3 years ago. Since COVID happened, the entire fucking timeline's a blur, mate. But when the game slowly died, I did just switch over to bots and just carried on playing it that way, because I was still getting games out of it, you know, rather than waiting in lobbies for ages. Because that's one of the other main complaints with this. It was, you know, the queue times were quite bad. But yeah, I'm a fucking tangenter. You'll have to put up with that as well, because we're going off on queue times and things when I'm trying to talk about Kraken. But yeah, as I say, against a solid team, getting pulled out the sky as Kraken is a very bad situation, and he does struggle in certain instances to come back from it. Traversal regen is probably one of his better buffs, because usually if you get pulled out of the sky, you're going to want traversals back as quickly as possible so you can get yourself back up into the air, which is why, similar to Goliath, I always run traversals with this monster, because it's better utility to just be able to stay airborne. In terms of attack damage though, he can put out a lot of damage. Lightning Strike, I should say, is his primary damage dealer, but we can also do this. You can also zone people with Vortex and also Banshee Mines, so it's quite area denial-y as well. But you can combine the abilities. Obviously, if you push hunters into Vortex, Banshee Mine them, just fire the Banshees directly at the hunters whilst they're still sliding on the floor. There's a slight recovery on hunters where they'll slide along the floor as they pick themselves back up. You fire the Banshee Mines during that time, they can't really avoid those, and then you charge the Lightning Strike, and it's, a lot of times it could be just a complete down based on them three abilities. So damage wise, he is very nice. It's slightly combo reliant, but it's not too combo reliant to be you know, considered problematic basically. But yeah, I'd say it's B tier. Design wise, literally Cthulhu. Obviously, you know, squid monster. I do really like his design. It's a very alien style as well, because he doesn't have wings, but he does fly, obviously, because he's propelling himself by virtue of electricity, rather than, you know, flapping wings kind of thing. We're going to mention it just on this monster briefly, because this is also a trait. You'll notice that his hands are also the same as Wraith's. This is what the game does to show you that the monsters are direct descendants of each other. Each monster going forward from Goliath through to Gorgon is an evolutionary response to whatever they're facing. Kraken is the direct result of Goliath being zapped by Markov's lightning gun. So obviously Goliath takes enough lightning over time, you know, he experiences enough of that. The HNA, as it's called, I don't know what the actual full name of it is, you know, the actual acronym. But monster DNA, HNA, is, you know, thinks, right, we'll use some of that lightning, or we'll use whatever's causing this sensation against me and turn me into it, you know? And then Kraken was born. So yeah, because he's a flying monster to avoid mines as well. It is the strongest of all the monsters that's directly linked to a specific hunter's presence. Obviously that being Markov, who uses mines and lightning to, you know, up until that point kill Goliaths. So they then evolved into a monster that uses lightning itself but can also avoid mines, you know. There's little background details like that in the game that makes it so fucking great, mate, because it's just, it amplifies the world massively, because it's got, like, as a monster as creative and bizarre as a flying squid that's using electricity to propel itself actually has a fucking a reason to exist, you know, that kind of thing. So it just makes it all so much fucking better, man, and believable. But yeah, B tier, just because his damage is okay, but he is very squishy. There's also the standoff that you can fall trap to. I did mention this in a recent Gorgon video, Kraken video. I'm going to leave all the mistakes in, by the way, because it's human. We won't probably edit this, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. But yeah, the standoff, if you don't know what that is it's damage creep that will come in. It's actually, ironically, quite relevant against Markov by virtue of his assault rifle. There are times where you'll be flying as a Kraken and you will actually forget that you've lost your armour. And Markov can consistently do red bar damage to you whilst you're shooting back at them. It's something you can get very easily distracted by. I always used to, well, not always, but I did fall victim to this a couple of times, where you'll be trying to fire like basic missiles at these hunters that look like they're nearly down. And obviously, because the base Kraken missile is quite a slow-moving projectile, all things considered, so a lot of them do miss. But you'll still be in the sort of mindset of trying to get these hunters down, and you'll be shooting banshee mines and that kind of thing. All the while, Markov is actually doing fucking massive amounts of red bar damage to you. You might see it in some of my Kraken videos and in the future as well, because it is something I fall trap to sometimes. It's just what the mind does. But yeah, overall B tier. He's not terrible. He's middle of the road, literally, for me, at least in Legacy. So we'll move on to his Identity Crisis brother. That is also going to be a B tier though. He's not an improvement. Yeah, actually we will stick him after. Yeah, because we'll do closer to the letters is obviously the best of the tier, and then the weaker of the tier is, you know, here. I do consider him to be slightly weaker than regular Kraken. The main issue with him is the fact that he does actually suffer from an identity crisis. This is something that also Glacial Behemoth has. It's not to say that he doesn't work, it's just that it's very strange because he's a flying monster that wants to melee. So it's a bizarre kind of split where... sorry, I've just had a bit of an epiphany there. He is actually better than Kraken, and I'll explain why in a minute. Oh, the touching tentacles, look at that. Where was I then? Yeah, he's got an identity crisis because he wants to fly, but he also wants to hit, so it creates this very in-out kind of playstyle, you know. The reason I buffed him up to the best of B tier so far here is because I forgot to mention that his Vortex is a direct upgrade. It's called Death Spiral to regular Kraken's Vortex. So regular Kraken's Vortex is more suited to pushing hunters away and zoning. Death Spiral is literal area denial because it does a lot of damage, and at stage 3 and you max it out, put 3 points into it, it is fucking huge and it does a lot of damage. In a very cramped space, it's also very unavoidable at stage 3, and you will take a fucking lot of damage from this ability. The differences between them though is that, well, outside of Death Spiral and Vortex, we'll start with Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike differs with Elder Kraken because it can't be directed. Regular Kraken can position his as he charges it, so you can actually follow hunters. Elder Kraken, you have to predict where they're going to be. Either stun them with something else or just basically cast it straight in front of your face as you're meleeing them, so they can't really dart themselves out of the way. Using Elder Kraken's version of Lightning Strike at range is quite bad because they can quite easily dodge it. It's still, I think, I know. I think it's the same channel time actually before it goes off between the two monsters. It's just that you can't move Elder Kraken's one because there is a small charge time, and it does give the hunters a chance to get away from it. But as I say, Elder Kraken's version, you can't reposition it. You have to place it down and try and predict that that's where they're going to be, you know. So that is weaker than default Krakens. Banshee Mines are replaced by Banshee Missile. This is Elder Kraken's Skill Shot ability. If you hit it directly on a hunter, it is better than Banshee Mines, but it requires you to hit it, and obviously I think it moves at the same speed as regular Kraken's basic attack missiles, and it can be quite easily dodged. You can use it directly into face, which is quite good, because if you do get a direct hit on it, it is very strong. It does the same amount of damage as Lightning Strike, but it has to be a direct hit for that to happen. It has a very small amount of splash area damage, but it's very small. But yeah, I'd say it's 50-50 there, to be fair, depending on which one you want to choose is better. They both sort of have application. Banshee Mines are more for ambush style things, because you can put them on walls or on ceilings where they won't be looking. On the day to live, obviously bots aren't going to bother with that. But yeah, it's two sides basically. You got butter on one side, dry on the other, whichever you prefer, you know, that kind of thing. And then there is Chain Lightning and Aftershock. This one's very easy. Base Kraken's Aftershock is... or Chain Lightning I should say. No, Aftershock, yeah. Is just 110% better. Chain Lightning is probably the weakest ability in the game, because it just doesn't have enough damage, literally. The way Chain Lightning works is the more people that are clumped together around you when you use it, it will spread to people and it'll do more damage based on how many people are there. But even when you get the whole fucking team trapped in this, that you have to also channel for a small amount of time so they can dart away, it doesn't really do any damage at all. It's just very bad. Aftershock is basically going to hit everybody in that region. It has a bit of a wider range as well, and it just does more damage. So Aftershock is just better. So to summarise, I'd say Elder Kraken is slightly better than Base Kraken, but only because of his zoning abilities with Death Spiral. Death Spiral is a huge carrier for Elder Kraken. He is slightly tankier than regular Kraken, so he does have that going for him, obviously being the melee version. But yeah, they're the only things that do put him above regular Kraken though. In the grand scheme of things, these two monsters are pretty much the same to me. It's just a very slight, it's just Death Spiral, honestly. Death Spiral is a very good ability, so it kind of just puts him slightly above his regular brother. But other than that, they're kind of just the same for me. Moving on to Wraith. Wraith is... actually... I'm literally going through the entire category of my fucking Wraith videos in my head. She's A tier. She is A tier. I'm going to say she's better than Kraken. She's not quite S tier with Goliath. I used to think she was, but she does have a couple of issues after I've been playing as her. Stage 2 Wraith was worse than Legacy Wraith for a couple of reasons. Obviously, we're not going into Stage 2 too much here, but she lost the ability to use Decoy and Cloak in Stage 2. Because it was something that the fucking simple gamers complained about, and they just catered to that. But she lost a lot of character identity in Stage 2 for that reason, because she basically just became a skinny Goliath, where she was just basically an upfront attacker rather than actual stealth. We're going to announce the elephant in the room and the problematic playstyle of fleet or free Wraith. This was a thing back in the day. That was kind of problematic, to be fair. Basically what you could do, this was probably the reason why they did actually remove Decoy, thinking about it. You could basically, with ability cooldowns, you could Decoy, and you could keep doing that, and basically just get all the way to Stage 3 without ever fighting the Hunters, ever. Against a team that didn't know how to cut her off, or where she was going, you know. So, it's... From that period of time, she would have been S tier, but only S tier meaning scummy, you know, because it's not really a playstyle, quite honestly, as far as I'm concerned. But based on the monster as she is now, very, very strong damage dealer. She's very squishy, so that's obviously a negative, but it is part of a character design. But she will melt very quickly against high damage teams, obviously with Carrot on them, and decent assaults and that kind of things. She's very suited to in-out styles, not in the same vein as Elder Kraken is, where it's physically in-out. I mean, just like get in, down one hunter, get out again. Abduct is also one of the best positional abilities in the game. At stage 3, if you max Abduct, you can nearly cross-map Steel Hunters with it. And those are, in those situations, if you do actually land it, that is more or less, if it's not the assault, anybody else is more or less guaranteed to go down. In that instance, it is a free down. Because of the distance, it's just too long for the other hunters to get there in time for him to save whoever she stole. So, in that regard, she can isolate very well. The only thing I will say, based on isolation, that was an improvement with Stage 2 was the isolation mechanic that she had. She did gain a passive in Stage 2, which was isolation, which was any hunter that was far away from their team after a certain amount of distance, you would get ambience where you would hear her whispering to you. She would say different flavourful lines about humanity and all that kind of thing, you know, all that lives dies and all this kind of thing in a very wispy sort of feminine voice. You could hear her actually speak. She's the only monster in the game that can actually speak, but she speaks telepathically to hunters. But what isolation did as a game mechanic as well was anybody who did run off, the first attack that she would do against that particular hunter would do a fucking lot of damage. It was basically like guaranteeing you a crit against that particular hunter. So it was a nice mechanic, that, and I do think that would be at home in Legacy. It was actually positive, that mechanic where it punished running off, you know. Because running off in this game is very dangerous for the same reasons as Left 4 Dead. You run off in Left 4 Dead, you could get grabbed by specials and then you just fucked, you know. It was a similar case here, but just in terms of you can't 1v1 a monster in this game. I mean, besides, well, actually no, at all stages of the game, even stage 1, you can't actually 1v1 a monster in this game, and you shouldn't be able to either. It is the power roll done right. You're supposed to stick together as a team in this one. So yeah, that's what that was punishing with the isolation mechanic. Design-wise, very nice, very feminine. She's obviously the female monster, you know. There's been a lot of thirst over the years for this monster. There's been a lot of art, as we'll call it. She's very xenomorphy, based on the, you know, her head not having eyes and that kind of thing. There's clear inspiration there. She's very bug-like as well. Her antennas on the back also simulate mood. When you channel Warp Blast or Abduction, you can see them flicking like sort of irritably. And also, just to briefly touch on a bit of a headcanon theory that I have with this monster, based on the colour change of Abduct and also Supernova, because there's two distinct colour changes with this monster. So at base, Wraith is Wraith. She's obviously the most intelligent monster, so obviously she's got a thinking brain. She's got, you know, she's not feral, she's not actually, she can speak, put it that way, telepathically, which is obviously surpasses any form of intelligence that we have. So she's obviously very hyper intelligent. There's two reasons why she changes colour in my headcanon for this particular idea. Supernova is when she gains an absolute overload of focus, which is why she's hyperactive. So she basically becomes ethereal, transcends reality, you know, with the intelligence kind of thing side of it. It's a concentrated area of just complete focus, which is why she's very quick and slicey. In front, that's her going fucking full concentration, beelining on hunter, you know, that kind of thing. And then the flip side of things is Abduct. So with Abduct, when she lunges forward into the charge towards the hunter, I believe that's her losing control and becoming feral in that particular instance, because it's a single target isolated ability where in this sort of particular situation the Wraith sees this one person, and that's when her feral side of her brain, the not intelligent style, goes front and centre. And the red version of Wraith is actually not necessarily the real Wraith, but it's her in her actual primitive kind of form, because she just lunges forward, arms outstretched and blades outstretched, because she's seeing prey, basically. It's this sort of detachment from, you know, reality as she sees it. She grabs them, and then she remains red while she's pulling them back, but once she returns to her original position, she goes back to being focused again. You know, that kind of thing. It's a sort of little thing I sort of picked up on with this monster because of the way she grabs people, the way she snakes around them. It's very unnatural, even for her, when she does it, the way she grabs them and then, you know, throws herself backwards again. It's sort of her losing control, that kind of thing. That's my headcanon with abduction, anyway. It is also minorly seen with Warp Blast, actually, I should mention that. When she actually detonates, you get a very brief glimpse of a similar kind of shade of colour to Abduct. But obviously that's when she's attacking, she goes red, you know, that kind of thing, because she's losing that cunning side of herself. But anyway, based on power level, A tier. Because she can put out a lot of damage, but obviously it's similar to Meteor Goliath in a way, where she is quite squishy and she is quite, like... The amount of damage she can put out can sometimes fall behind the amount of damage she takes in certain instances. She's not as forgiving with cooldowns either as Goliath. So, yeah, I think she's A tier for me. Then we have the Rock Boy. We'll say that obviously Behemoth in Stage 2 was fucking S tier, and I don't consider him the good kind of S tier in Stage 2, because I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe this was the man who stopped us from having a fucking revival. And I don't hate him, you know, I fucking love this monster, but he was the way he was being used in Stage 2, because he was a fucking noob stomper in Stage 2, and during the revival period, it was new players, obviously, because it was people coming back to the game. You know, they're not necessarily new players, they might have played the game before, but it's been like 6 or 7 years, so in that regard, they're basically new players again, you know. But yeah, I think it's not the monster himself, I think he just attracted all the meta cunts. I couldn't fucking stand it, mate. I was in one of the people in the Discord who, when all this coaching shit came about during the revival, I was objectively against that shit because it was removing the innocence from the game. And as I said at the time during this revival, and lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, I don't like to toot my own horn when I say this, but I was fucking right, you know, because I do actually know what I'm talking about. Because that was something that, you know, somebody said to me in the Discord, you know, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, it's fine. It's not for, just let people play the game. Just let people play the game, ladies and gentlemen, led to the death of the fucking revival, because all it became was these fucking sweaty Behemoth players literally just stomping players at Stage 1 out of the dropship, you know. But that was fine, apparently, wasn't it? You know, we got our coaching in there, we got our, you know, ego strokes and all that kind of thing, and destroyed the fucking game's chances. So, it is what it is. But I mentioned it at the time, and I could see from the first 10 minutes of it, I mean 10 minutes as a symbolic kind of saying here, obviously not physically 10 minutes, but the first early days I knew what was going to fucking happen in this particular instance, when once all the meta monkeys found Behemoth, and they found that he was very overtuned in Stage 2, it was fucking over, because that's what people do in these instances. And I'm not going to say it's solely the reason, obviously, why the revival didn't go the way it should have fucking done, and we should have all been playing with the new monster that's just been released now, you know. Because 2K's handling the revival was just fucking utter dog shit though anyway. It had a fucking hand in it, and I do believe that this coaching shit should not have fucking happened, mate. Should not have happened. I will take the opportunity to mention a positive, but also laden with a negative, because there was also tournaments going on, which I don't believe should have been a thing either. I know there is certain things such as player engagement and all that kind of thing, and keeping people engaged and things, but that would have come from the actual game itself and just learning how to play it, not people saying, literally labelling this shit as coaching when they say, right, pick this monster, play like this. You know, this kind of thing. You know, it was just a very two-dimensional, systematic way. Pick this monster, win. Pick this hunter, win. Because the hunter equivalent of Behemoth was Slim. Slim was fucking stupid in Stage 2, by just design. They got rid of his Spore Cloud launcher for a button press that turned you fucking invincible. So, it's just, it was fucking idiotic, quite honestly. So there was one on both sides that was ruining, you know, the experience for the new players. And obviously, for me personally, I'm very pro-new player when it comes to this. I'm very pro-casual. As I say, that's part of the reason why I run a lot in DBD, because DBD gets very sweaty, just by virtue of the difference in IQ that you need to play killer in that game compared to the very simplest of survivor shit that goes on. But yeah, as I say, this man was the vehicle used that put the fucking revival on the back foot. So it doesn't mean anything towards his rating, it's just something I'm referencing because obviously in stage 2 he was S tier, as I said at the beginning of that. And I do believe in Legacy as well he is S tier, but it's a lot of it's down to his HP. This monster obviously being a boulder and made of rock, he is literally, you know, the tank of the team. So massive amounts of HP. His traversal is the only one in the game that can be used as an attack as well. You can literally roll yourself into hunters and isolate them with it. Although this was removed in stage 2, I don't know why, because that was a significant part of gameplay depth, because you could actually use the traversal of Behemoth to zone hunters out tactically. You could use it to isolate by pushing them. So they removed that. Hunters were solid objects in stage 2, which was fucking stupid. But yeah, he's got a lot of utility. Obviously, this monster is very combo reliant, but his combo usually, if it's not the assault, will guarantee a down. But if you try and use his abilities without using his combo, he is pretty damn bad. Yeah, we're going to bump him down to A actually, thinking about it based on that. But I'm going to put him, he's going to be the best of A tier. Can I please do this, please? Tier list, thank you. He is the best of A tier. He's better than Wraith and Goliath, but yeah, for that reason actually, because he is combo reliant, he is significantly less powerful when he's not doing his combo. Because his abilities on their own, apart from Fissure, his abilities don't do too much damage, to be honest. It's all about isolating him in the wall and mixing it with a couple of basic attacks in there as well. But yeah, in terms of zoning, he would be S tier because he is the zoning monster. You wall up, you stop him, you basically separate the fucking hunter team. You know, you pull somebody in, isolate the hunter completely from the team with the wall, and then just fire lava bomb and Fissure at them and just basic attack the rest of their HP away. You know, and that's 9 times out of 10 that's a down if it's not the assault with a shield or any sort of interference. Because Kyra, if a hunter like Kyra, a medic like Kyra, I should say, or Slim can as well actually, because Slim can heal through a wall with these healing bugs. If they don't have any interference from that, because Kyra can, if you shoot a healing bomb at the very base of the wall and the hunter stays with the back against the wall, it will catch them in it from the other side. So she can feed through healing there. But if they don't have any interference, usually they will go down to that combo. But yeah, as I say, it's not S tier because obviously he is combo reliant. He does have to do abilities in quite a specific order, otherwise he's not going to fucking do anything basically. His damage is too little, and against very high sustain teams or high defense teams, usually the HP damage that's done by a lava bomb or a fissure on its own can be healed pretty much instantly. So it is what it is. It does bump him down to A tier, but he's high A tier. Design wise, fucking phenomenal. He's up there with Goliath, honestly, in terms of design. I've still not seen a monster in gaming to this day that's playable with this level of like ingenuity and creativity in his design. His traversal is literally turning into a fucking boulder, ladies and gentlemen, and moving around as a boulder. And, you know, obviously when you're coming out of it, you unfurl, you've got your arms, he's got huge arms at the front that come out, you know, that kind of thing. You can literally, well, you can't recreate his trailer, but you play as the monster that's in the trailer, you know. Usually when you get a trailer like this, where he's chasing Griff in a sort of Indiana Jones style sequence, and you see him at the end where he lands in front of him and then he starts unfolding and he leans right into Griff. It's such a fucking good trailer. Griff and Behemoth are both staring each other down, inches from each other. It's so fucking good. That, to a certain degree, does actually occur in the game itself. You can roll around as a boulder, you know, and then unfold in front of people. So he's actually accurate to his trailer. He's accurate in the same way that Wraith is as well. Wraith's trailer's quite good. Wraith's got a lot of deceit in her trailer as well, with the way the decoy switches with the real Wraith, and you see the real Wraith re-emerge at the end. That kind of thing. It happens slightly off screen in that with the decoy. It's very nice. I'd encourage you all to like watch, you know, the trailers again because they're fucking phenomenal, man. It's very bittersweet because, you know, we would have got loads of others as well for other monsters. But yeah, but there you go. So we're moving on to Glacial Bob now. God rest his soul. Yeah, the man's been lost completely. This guy is no longer playable at all anywhere for anybody because he went down with the ship that was stage 2. The servers are gone. The same is for Electro Griffin, Quantum Kyra, Renegade Abe, Paladin Parnell, Battle Cabot. Forgive me if I'm missing anybody, I think that's it. Can't think of anybody else now. There was numerous others that were planned as well. There was like War Bucket, there was fucking loads of them, man. It's the entire fucking existence of this game is just missed potential, mate. It really is. In terms of rating him though, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to put this man in C tier. He's not quite D because he does have some potential zoning abilities with, well, he did. Fuck me, I'm going to have to speak in past tense here. Past tense. He had access to, I can't actually remember the names of them now. I think one of them was Ice Spike, which was the tongue ability where, well, actually, let me just start actually by saying, similar to Elder Kraken, he does suffer from an identity crisis because this is a tank monster that wants to push people away compared to his regular brother that was all about pulling them in as the tank monster, which is usually what you'd want to do. And he is... Glacial did have slightly less HP than Behemoth, or actually a lot of less HP, thinking about it, because I do remember him, he was actually very squishy. He did have HP issues in stage 2, he was very, very squishy, thinking about it. We're talking Gorgon levels as well. In terms of squishiness, I do believe his numbers were in severe need of just straight up flat buffs. But yeah, his tongue equivalent was Ice Spike. I believe it was called Ice Spike, which would actually push hunters at a very fast speed, very far away. Which was actually, it was quite good in terms of basic ability. It was just that it was, with a monster that's supposed to be a tank, it was kind of, didn't really belong to him, you know, that kind of thing. That was the feel of it. But you could actually impale hunters on walls with it as well. And this was obviously used with Glacier. I think it was called Glacier? Glacial... I think it was Glacial Obelisk, I think it was called, which was his version of the wall. So the wall was completely replaced by this targetable obelisk that would rise out the ground like a big spike, an icy spike, which had a big bubble around it, which everybody inside would take frost damage. So obviously, part of what his combo was that he would pin them to the wall, or maybe even. No, yeah, back in the day, it was you'd do the obelisk first. It's like reversing regular Behemoth's combo. So you'd do the obelisk and then immediately try and pin the hunter to the obelisk or a wall that's next to the obelisk. So then it would, like, you know, do a lot of unavoidable damage. The obelisk itself was actually quite decent in damage. It did actually do quite a lot of damage, provided that obviously hunters would stay in it. It was also one of the best abilities in the game to stop roaching. Roaching was a tactic that was used against a lot of monsters that was... I wouldn't say... I mean, to me, in a way, it was one of those sorts of things where it turned the game similar to fucking Dead by Daylight, and it did feel very cheesy. It was a viable tactic to avoid a lot of monster attacks, but roaching was basically you'd stay against a wall with your jetpacks so that most monsters didn't actually have a way to really reliably hit you, and you'd also hug walls and run around loops basically. But obviously with Obelisk you could put the Obelisk down at that loop and it would literally punish them to keep running around it. I do believe the Obelisk as well could actually be destroyed though by enough Hunter Fire, because I think there was some people who were destroying it when you went against the sweaty team. So I didn't really appreciate that, quite honestly. I'm being serious, I know I giggled there, but it's things like that in the game. Like, obviously with a monster like this that was also very weak as well, it goes into DBD territory where it's just unnecessary counterplay. The counterplay to Obelisk should have just been, you can't run around this loop while it's up. You know, it still had a cooldown, and it still had, you know, this thing. You couldn't just fucking put it up everywhere, you know. It was this thing you could use to prevent a strong loop being run, but then the hunter who's running the loop, their teammates could shoot the Obelisk down and you wouldn't have to bother about it, you know, they could just carry on running. That kind of thing. It was unnecessary, that, I don't think it should have been able to be destroyed, but yeah. The other one that I believe replaced... No, it didn't replace Lava Bomb. So we had... I don't know what that one was called though, I literally can't remember it. We did have Lava Bomb though, but it was replaced by like a snowball. It was the same kind of thing, it was just you'd shoot it in an area and it put like a big frosty circle down, which actually looked very nice. You could turn maps into like tundras with it, like a little area turned into a tundra. And obviously hunters that were on this particular patch, they take damage from the initial impact, but they'd also take frost damage similar to Obelisk, but also be very slowed in this patch, this area. So obviously you'd use this with Obelisk. He's got so much fucking gameplay depth, dude. Fucking hell, I'm having PTSD here. I wish they'd have put him, like, they could have ported him over to Legacy at the end of this fucking revival. At least give us something, you know, so I would have been able to play him on camera for people again. It does my fucking head in, mate. If you want to see what he plays like, by the way, I just want to say, there is a playlist on my channel. If you go to Stage 2 Content, it's called, on there. The playlists are a bit jumbled, but you go to Stage 2 Content, there's me playing as Glacial Behemoth in them. You can see what he's like there. He has a lot of zoning potential. Had a lot of zoning potential, you know. It was just a case, basically, really, of his numbers. His HP was too low, which is why he was never really played, because he fucking melted. Which is ironic, obviously, because he's made of ice, but at the same time, like, it was just... his HP made him unplayable, to be honest. His damage was... it was good, but again, it was like very combo reliant, and if you didn't do the combo, it was a worse case of regular Behemoth, like he couldn't fucking do anything. If you didn't, you know, actually get a solid combo off. So that's why he's C tier, basically, because he's just... His design is fucking phenomenal. There's a bit of an identity crisis thing going on, as I said, because he's pushing people away as a tank monster, but he's his actual, the way he played and all that kind of thing was very nice, mate. Well, yeah, there you go. Rest in peace, sweet prince. Never to be seen again. So we'll move on to Gorgon. We're rating Gorgon based on legacy, so just to preface this, if I was to rate her based on stage 2, she would be below Meteor Goliath, I should say. There. A tier. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's a D tier in Legacy. This is purely down to numbers. Purely down to numbers. HP is too low, damage is too low. Literally it. There's nothing wrong with her abilities at all. Mimic is slightly questionable, but again, it's down to numbers. If you raise the HP of the Mimic itself, the actual unit you control when you fire it out, so it doesn't die instantly, when it takes damage from, you know, well, a small amount of damage from Hunter Fire, it would be more viable to use. But as it stands, our HP is fucking dire, mate. It is really bad. There are certain games where, against certain teams, it's actually worth fleeing till 3 as a genuine tactic. because at stage 2, she's very bad. Like, she can't really... Basically, the way most Gorgon games go in Legacy is that you will basically go for a fight at stage 2 if you're not going to go straight to stage 3. And you basically spend your entire armor bar and sometimes about half of your fucking HP bar trying to down the trapper. So she's got issues in terms of damage and just raw HP. Though that said, her abilities themselves are actually very nice. She's quite zony again, but she's more about whittling the team down over time by virtue of vomit webs and the spider. The spiders are used probably. Well, the spider is her utility tool because the spider basically removes one hunter from the battlefield for a small amount of time. So you'd obviously, in certain instances, you'd want to get the medic in there so you can maybe down the trapper so that, you know, the trapper's not being healed during this time, or depending on whether you're against, say, Hank, you get Hank in the spider. That's very good because then you remove the team's shieldings, you know. It does have massive amounts of utility in terms of that. And it does quite a lot of damage as well. The initial grab, it's basically a regular ability's hit damage. But in terms of the rest of it, yeah, HP damage, it's just way too low, mate, and it is enough to put her down into D tier as the worst monster. Because she can't, like, she struggles to down the trapper, you know, in a lot of instances to get out of domes. She's not at stage 3. So, and then even at stage 3, she still has to she has to think about things, a lot of things, you know, where she has to go in, how she has to do things, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, design-wise, Necromorph Spider. That's the vibe I always get. Very nice, obviously a horror-themed style monster. But yeah, very nice indeed. This monster was actually going to be, well, actually, we'll explain this to you, because this is a bit of lore, and something a lot of you might not actually know. We got a very brief glimpse of this back in the day of Stage 2 when they had the Deepest Dark beta. There was actually a variant of Gorgon coming called the Queen Gorgon.
In what doom-shrouded future do we find ourselves? The hideous beasts from our nightmares now plague 1,000 worlds. From this island sheer, they disgorge across the seas of time and space. Now, invested by the hybrid, only the most savage and brutal of hunters remain. The shrouded sociopath hides his face and thinks to stop the Queen of Gorgons before the madness consumes them all. Unaware, it is too late. Hope is lost. Observe this nightmare world. The darkened skies, the ashen land. Nothing sane remains. Only creatures driven mad and twisted into broken fuse. The Gorgon Queen rules here. Her offspring gestate and burst forth. Drawn to the light of consciousness, the loathsome monsters seek out our heroes. And the monsters will find them. It lurks, this beast of oblivion. The hunters have no choice but to seek her out. The Queen, the architect of ruin. Only her death can bring you surcease of pain. Gorgon's wounds deepen, driving her to greater desperation. The gestation of her brood quickens. Your doom accelerates. The Gorgon hatches. There can be no hope for the future.
and the Queen Gorgon she was going to be playable in game, but I think the actual Queen Gorgon, in terms of the lore, was actually, we're talking Godzilla sized, like massive fucking spider, you know. And she was obviously breeding all these other Gorgons, which leads me on to the point that when you actually play as a Gorgon in game, you're playing as one of the Queen Gorgon's babies. You know, it's literally a baby, which would explain the vomiting and that kind of thing. Actually, it's baby-like behaviour, you know. But yeah, you're playing as a baby of the Queen Gorgon. I do think that the Queen Gorgon, if the game did get the life it deserves, I think the Queen Gorgon would have been a playable monster. I think that's what they were shifting it towards. She was placeholder in the Deepest Dark beta. She was just a Gorgon, but with a blue tint on her body. But I do think over time they would have added, you know, extra bits of armour or flair to the body and that kind of thing, because that's what they did with the other monsters. Obviously, you've got Meteor, Goliath's antlers, the tail, Elder Kraken's spikes, the one eye, that kind of thing. They probably would have done that with Gorgon, which would have been interesting to see, because I would have liked to have seen what they'd have done. My vision of that was something similar to how Alien is in the movie, the Queen. I think it's the Queen anyway. I don't know about Alien lore, but the ones that breed, where they have that massive fucking cock underneath them. But I think from, like, you know, from where a body is, the abdomen on the back, the big nest that's got all the, like, the maggots inside it, it comes out underneath that, and she's more of a hornet style shape, that kind of thing, where she can bend it under, and that might be able to launch a projectile similar to how the spider gets launched out of Gorgon, you know. But maybe that, with Queen Gorgon, maybe that replaces the actual vomit ability, where it's more of like a neurotoxin that she fires out of her tail, that kind of thing, you know. But yeah, potential, mate. Still exists to this day. Still fucking exists. There is no reason for this game to be dead. And, you know, I even if you're not going to fucking do anything with it, even if 2K is not going to fucking do anything with it, sell it. Why the fuck are you hanging on to it? You know, sell it to somebody else who'll do something with it. You know, it's just genuine fucking selfishness, mate. It really is. The only reason I see that they're not selling it at the moment is maybe they do plan on having another pop at it. But I've said this before, like, I'm on the fence whether I want a sequel or not. Because if we do get a sequel, it ain't going to be like this game in this day and age, mate. Not a fucking chance, fam. Just isn't. There'll be cut corners everywhere, animation quality will be lacking. Nah. The only happy ending I get for this this series is they do pick this up again, and they carry on. Personally, and I've mentioned it in the evacuation video recently. Or, well, it might not be recently. It depends when this goes out. Where I said, in terms of company image, you're actually doing more damage to it from a consumer standpoint, because you're basically just taking a product off the market that other people want to play. On the fucking daily, I shit you not, I exaggerate not, I get people saying they want to play this game. They ask me, where can I find this game? Where can I buy this game? Where can I actually experience this game again? So there is obvious fucking demand for it, you know? Just because it didn't do well on the 2,500 players we got in, you know, the surge that we had on a game that isn't fucking publicly available for purchase, you know, but it got 2,500 people playing it. You know, just because it didn't do well there, it doesn't mean it doesn't have a fucking chance, you know? You re-release it onto Steam, you actually put it out in public, you know? Rather than just throwing a bunch of keys into a Discord server. Why? Why not just relist it on Steam? You know? It's fucking stupid the way they did it. But yeah. Anyway, that concludes the tier list, by the way. Going into a bit of a rant on the end. I don't know how this is going to be edited. As I say, I'll have to see how that comes out. You'll know by the time you're hearing this. But I was going to maybe put some gameplay of each specific monster, you know, in the background over, you know, as we rate them. Because I do actually have footage of Glacial Behemoth. I'll just have to dig out some videos from the order playlist, you know. So if you're hearing this now and it is actually in there, this is not going to make much sense. I might edit this piece out. But if it isn't, then I was just too lazy, because that's just me. But yeah. as I say, there's the tier list for the monsters that I believe. Goliath is the best, Gorgon is the worst, everybody else is in between. And yeah, we say one final God rest his soul to Glacial Behemoth, because actually talking about him has actually made me really want to play him again for some reason. I do genuinely miss him, so it is what it is. I honestly don't know why, even just as a base takeaway, they didn't fucking port him to Legacy. Even with his numbers that he is, I'll take that, you know. There doesn't have to be any sort of actual game development work gone into it, just literally port it over to Legacy, you know. We've got Meteor Goliath, we've got Elder Kraken, why have we not got Glacial? You know, why have we not got Quantum Kyra? Why have we not got Electro Griffin? Why have we not got Battle Cabot? You know, why have we not got Paladin Parnell? You know, everybody. Why have we not got everybody? Why have we not got Renegade Abe? It don't make any sense. It really doesn't. The entire whole fucking thing surrounding this game. We're past the point of tasteful restraint with microtransactions now, mate. Yeah? It's fucking everywhere in games now. Yeah? So there's no reason why this game can't exist in this day and age, mate. It's as simple as that. And the amount of potential this has, and the amount of fucking fidelity and passion that's gone into the creation of these monsters and the hunters, the world, the lore, everything. It's a fucking waste, mate. It really is. It's an absolute fucking waste. Genuinely. And I'll die on this hill when I say it. I know that there are other game communities that do go through this as well, and I am considering them when I say this. Obviously, I don't know about their games particularly, but for me personally, this is actually the biggest waste of potential in modern gaming, mate. I genuinely do believe that. Because of how high quality it is and how much potential it still continues to have, even now. It is what it is, as I say. It's fucking bizarre and nonsensical, quite honestly. Even from a corporate standpoint, you're sitting on a fucking cash cow with this, in this day and age. Because I've always said, like, I know some people might not agree with this when I say this, but this is how I see things these days, and it's something that I personally don't mind in terms of monetization these days. If you were to relaunch this game with an immediate battle pass, I would be fucking over the moon with that. With, I don't know, no, I wouldn't say put a new monster in it, because obviously then you go into the grounds of, oh, it's pay to win. But some sort of skin that physically changes the monster, you know? Like a sort of special skin, like Meteor Goliath or Elder Kraken, but it doesn't actually change the base monster's abilities, you know, it's just a skin for them. I've said it before, like, stick some chains on Goliath, you know, around his wrists. He's got, like, manacles and things like that, because he's been... that particular Goliath that you're playing on in that instance has escaped a facility that he was imprisoned in, you know, that kind of thing, because they were experimenting on the monsters as well in this world. So there's a monster that's, you know, put some actual blood on him, you know, that kind of thing. So he's escaped and broke out of the facility, killed everybody, and, you know, that kind of thing. You could do that with the monsters, you know, because the only skins we ever got with this game were just palette swaps, or just recolours, you know, up until the point of when it died. But I do think further down the line they would have started adding more things to the models themselves, and more types of effects and that kind of thing, which would have been fucking amazing to see. Because the way I see this is that Evolve these days is basically, it's multiplayer Monster Hunter, where you play as the monster in it. That's basically what it is. And I've searched high and low, and I cannot see. People keep saying Predator Hunting Grounds, but I've never actually seen this game personally, so I'm just not going to mention that here. But in terms of everything that I have seen with my eyes, I have not seen an ASIM do the boss fight archetype. It's not Dead by Daylight's not the boss fight archetype. So you can fuck that right off straight away. That's not the boss fight archetype. No, there's no combat in Dead by Daylight. There's no skill expression, because there isn't. It's running circles, you know. As I say, recently I've been warming up to Dead by Daylight because they've recently boosted it up to Unreal Engine 5, and that is good because there is good potential for the future. They are actually putting decent animations into the game now. They're not quite there with Evolve, you know, because I put it this way, mate. I'm not even slating when I say this, but I don't think DBD will ever come close to Evolve, ever. In terms of animation quality and atmosphere and all that kind of thing. It certainly won't with atmosphere. There's no atmosphere in Dead by Daylight. But yeah, as I say, like, the main takeaway, ladies and gentlemen, is this game shouldn't be dead. It's just, it is what it is, as far as I'm concerned. It should not be dead. But there you go. The rant was always going to be the end of this one, because it's, you know, it's talking about the game itself and the monsters and things like that. I'm going to address the question that is probably going to come up in the comment section if I don't address this. No, I am not going to do a Hunter tier list. Because that shit will be like 5 hours long, and, you know, I don't have time, quite honestly. I'm not going to completely rule it out, but for the time being, ladies and gentlemen, I do not have the dedication or resolve to commit to doing that, because there's about 30 odd, probably more hunters to go through, and obviously it's took us this long to get through 8 monsters, so, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, there's the tier list in video form. Okay, I did, you know, it's been requested for quite a while, and I said I'd do it at some point, so today's the day, you know. So yeah, there you go. That's my thoughts. Final one. Rip Sweet Prince, Glacial Behemoth. It lies. There you go. That's the tier list. Hope you've enjoyed, and I will hopefully see you for more Evolve gameplay. Bye.